David Marlowe sat slouched across 3 stiff chairs near gate C12, his carry-on bag tucked under his feet. The overhead speaker crackled to life, announcing another delay. He checked his watch, again. He'd already been at the airport for nearly 18 hours. His flight to San Diego was supposed to leave yesterday. He stood up and wandered back toward the arrivals and departures board. Every flight was marked in bold red letters, departed, no gates were open, no new passengers were arriving. He frowned, refreshed his phone's flight tracker, but it too glitched and crashed. A worker vacuuming the floor passed by. David asked, "Hey, do you know when the next flight out is?" The man didn't respond. He just kept vacuuming. David tried the information desk. No one was there. In fact, the entire terminal seemed emptier than it should be. No crying babies. No overhead announcements. No bustling crowds. Just sterile light and the distant hum of vending machines. And then, the most unsettling thing of all happened. David walked from Terminal C to Terminal B, and somehow ended up right back in Terminal C. The same gate. The same trash can with a crumpled soda can on top. The same janitor vacuuming the same spot. He laughed nervously. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he was just looping around. But after the 5th time walking in a straight line only to return to where he started, his stomach tightened. He wasn't tired. Something was wrong. David tried to leave the airport. He followed the signs to the exit. Automatic glass doors slid open, revealing the familiar loop road where taxis lined up. But when he stepped through, he was back in the food court. Same tables. Same stale smell of pretzels. Same looping advertisement on the digital screen playing a vacation ad with cheerful ukulele music. He started to panic. He dumped out his bag, looking for a clue, a phone number, a name. His phone had no signal. The time on it blinked 3:03 a.m., no matter how much time passed. He smashed it in frustration. When he looked up, the food court was full again. People were eating, chatting, laughing, none of them noticed him. He blinked. Now the tables were empty again. David began writing notes, drawing maps on napkins, trying to track the patterns. But every time he fell asleep, even for a second, everything reset. His notes vanished. His trash disappeared. His empty coffee cup reappeared full and steaming. There were no clocks in the terminal. The people, when they appeared, were never the same twice. Sometimes they wore clothes from the 90s. Sometimes their faces looked wrong, blurred. He screamed once, in the middle of a crowded gate. No one turned around. On the 7th, or 70th, day, he saw her. A woman in a white coat. She was the only person who ever looked directly at him. She stood at the end of a hallway with a red sign that read employees only, restricted access. She motioned for him to follow. David ran. He didn't hesitate. The hallway was long and flickering. He felt a cold draft, like stepping into a freezer. Pipes creaked above. The humming lights buzzed louder the deeper he went. She stopped outside a door that had no handle, just a small window. Through it, he could see a room filled with thousands of monitors, each one showing different parts of the airport. But some screens were in black and white, showing scenes from decades past. A man reading a newspaper in 1963. A stewardess smoking in uniform. A kid eating a sandwich while his parents argued nearby. And in one screen, David saw himself, sleeping on the chairs in Terminal C. The woman turned to him. Her eyes were sharp, ancient, far too old for her smooth face. "Welcome back," she said. "We missed you." He backed away. "Back? What are you talking about? You left once. But no one ever leaves twice." The door behind her opened by itself. Inside, there were files. Folders, neatly labeled, going back over 50 years. Some names were crossed out in red. His name was on one of the folders, dated 2001. But he was only 32. David fled. He didn't understand what she meant. Had he been here before? Was he dead? Dreaming? He found himself sprinting through the terminals, now empty again, cold and humming. Every exit brought him back to the same terminal. Every mirror showed his reflection aging, wrinkling one moment, then resetting the next. The arrival screen blinked, "No flight scheduled." And then he noticed it. A new terminal sign had appeared. Terminal 0. It hadn't been there before. He followed it down a narrow escalator, deeper than any subway he'd seen. The temperature dropped with each step. At the bottom, there was a gate. A jet bridge leading out into fog. A man stood beside the gate door. He wore a pilot's uniform, but his eyes were hollow, lips stitched into a frozen smile. "Your flight is ready for boarding, Mr. Marlowe," he said. David hesitated. Then, behind him, the woman in white whispered. "You've tried every other door. This is the only one left." He stepped forward. The door opened. And just as he crossed the threshold, he woke up, lying on the chairs in Terminal C. The arrival screen blinked. Every flight said, departed. David stood up, breathing hard. His phone read 3:03 a.m. The janitor passed again, vacuuming the same spot. And the hallway to Terminal 0 was gone. He was back. Again. And this time, there was no new terminal. No woman. No escape. Only the hum of fluorescent lights. And the growing certainty that he would never leave.